right, welcome to today's podcast. It's a long one, so we'll get right to it. And it's a long one because we haven't had much of a chance to speak this week, but this is the first time that I've had this guest in studio. She's signed the board already. You might have already seen those pictures on social. She put X1 as in one time, even though this is her second visit to the podcast. Her first visit when she was leaving. She worked at NBC 24, and I always greatly admired her work. You might have heard me say in the past, or you'll hear me say here, I could not believe that this was her first job. I could not believe when she said, yeah, I'm thinking of coming back. She left NBC, went to Vegas, went to New York, and wound up back here. We've talked a bunch lately about the mayor, the county, the city's message. We've got stuff here. Now we need to get people here. There might be no better ambassador, or at least someone to evangelize that message, than Sophia Perricone from WTOL 11. Let's visit with her now. Why did you ask me what you have to wear today?
Well, I didn't want to look unprofessional, and I feel like 5 days a week I'm like in full hair, makeup, and a dress. So
right.
My 2 days a week where I'm not working, I like to just be in my workout clothes.
I think we've known each other long enough now, and we know each other well enough to know, what would you think you'd have to go to of mine where you would have to dress nicer than what you are now?
Well, I thought maybe just even jeans. I'm not even wearing jeans. I'm wearing leggings. So that's, jeans, that's not dressing up, but that's what people wear out and about.
Sweats and T-shirts are very welcome here, especially when you come to visit me.
Perfect.
But you have the distinction of being the first person to ever ask what I should wear.
Oh.
Did you... It doesn't sound like you were thinking this, but did you think that it was going to be on video too? Because some people ask me that. But you don't care because you're on TV all the time.
I mean, if I wasn't sure if there would be a video element, but I figured if there was a video element, you would say, don't wear. I said, can I wear athleisure? And I feel like if there was video, you would have said, don't wear athleisure.
Wear whatever the hell you want, as long as you're dressed. I don't care.
I just like to be comfortable.
Comfort is good.
Yeah.
Has there ever been any kind of how are you instructed? Because there are consultants with TV news as to what you should wear, right?
Not so much anymore.
Because they can't be afforded. That makes sense.
This is the first station I've worked at where we have had a consultant come in. Mm-hmm. Even when I was in Vegas, we did not have consultants. But I think, people that you learn from tell you wear jewel tone colors, dresses.
What's jewel tone?
Like purples and emeralds and
Got it.
Nice colors.
How come? Is there something psychological with that?
I guess it just looks good on TV.
Okay.
And I think it looks good on every skin color, honestly.
Got it.
They're nice colors, nice, pretty colors. So, yeah.
So you learn what to wear by others, by being observant, and others teaching you or coaching you a little bit?
And I think just if you want to be in news, you grow up watching the news, mm-hmm. I think, and you see what they're wearing. You dress for the job you want.
Did you grow up wanting to be on the news?
Oh, yeah, my whole life. I don't know why. So I'm from Southern California. High-speed chases, that's our thing. The news choppers are out following those around. I would be glued. My best friend would come down to my house. Her, my mom, and myself, we would watch every high-speed chase. And I think that's what really got me into the news, because then the chase ends and then they go back to regular scheduled news programming. And I just loved it. I love talking to people and telling people what's going on in the world. And I don't know. It's just something that's always been in me.
Have you ever met anybody else, especially of your age, that has wanted to get into news because of high-speed chases?
No, I don't think so. I don't know why other people want to get into news. It's not a glamorous job, but I feel like everyone kind of it starts from an early childhood thing. For me, it was high-speed chases.
I don't think you were alive when it happened. So do you go back and rewatch the OJ thing repeatedly? Is that your Hall of Fame watch?
I was not, but that happened right by where I grew up. And so it happened when it was my aunt's 16th birthday party. Yeah, I was not alive. And everyone was glued to the TV at her birthday party when that was happening. And it went right by where her birthday party was happening. So I hear stories from that day, and none of it's about my aunt its birthday specifically, but
they could have stopped at the birthday, wish her a happy birthday.
yeah, could have. That would have been a treat.
So you originally got here, what, in like 2020, 2019?
2019. So, my first day was like August 4th, 2019.
Where did you come here to work at 24 from?
New York City. I went to school in New York, so right out of college, I knew I had to move for, my first on-air job. I had never been to Ohio before. Honestly, I'm going to throw myself under the bus here. I thought Ohio was like further west. I had no idea where Ohio even was, which sounds crazy, and I shouldn't even admit that, but that just goes to show in this industry, you have to move to a place you don't know to get started. And so, yeah.
That was one of the things that I learned very early on. My dad gave me some edicts that I needed to understand if he was going to allow me to be in radio. Wasn't going to make a lot of money.
Yep.
Although there's a little glamour with it and attention. You're not going to make a lot of money and you're probably going to move a lot. Like,
Yep.
I understood those, and I moved out to Detroit when I had just turned 20.
Detroit's awesome, though. That's a pretty good first move, right?
The first two places I was ever on the air, like I started at the top in a way. I got to be on the air at the station I grew up listening to in Philadelphia.
Oh, that's awesome.
And then I only went out to Detroit. I went with my mentor, who brought me out there a couple of months after he moved back out there. And I was kind of like a music wizard with the program that we used to create the playlists and stuff. And then one day they're like, "Hey, you're on the air this weekend." I'm like, what?
Just gotta get thrown into it, though, right?
That's what they did. And I had some really great teachers. I had a really zany, a zany, talented, unmedicated dude who helped get me out of my shell, or else I would have been even more of a straight edge. Yeah. And I'm very thankful for where I was able to start. You went from California to New York. Was there anything in between from home to school?
When I graduated high school, and it was right to New York City.
That had to be some culture shock as well.
It's so funny. I was just talking to my dad yesterday about this. My first 2 weeks there were miserable. I was so scared. I mean, to go from where I grew up, it's a bubble. It's Orange County, California. If you've seen The Real Housewives, that's what it is.
And the OC.
The OC, that's a little early for me, but I tried to rewatch it a little bit. But it's a bubble. You get in your car, it's the suburbs, you drive everywhere. And then all of a sudden I was in New York City. You have to take the subway or walk. You see a lot of stuff that you don't see growing up in Orange County, but I think it's good to get out of your hometown, especially if it's Orange County, and see like the rest of the world. And my brother was at NYU at the time, so he was there. I really leaned on him, honestly, all 4 years that I was there. But without him, I think I would have moved back home. But
what was your oh wow moment when you saw a giant rat or something like that?
I don't know. I can't remember. I just know after those first 2 weeks, I was like, okay, I can do this. I have to do this.
Did you cry at all?
Every day. every day. And my mom was like, you have to be there. Like, you have to be there. You're not coming home. And my dad was like, you can come home anytime. Come home. We'll figure it out. But my mom pushed me, and I think my brother also pushed me. I didn't go to NYU with him. I went to a different school, but he took me around NYU a lot, and he took me to college parties, and I was getting comfortable, and he really helped me. And he still lives there. He'll be there forever. But
how many jobs did you apply for once you were done school before you wound up here, or in the litany of jobs?
It's funny because whenever I talk to someone that's getting into news, and they ask me this question, how many jobs do you have to apply for? I have a list on my phone because with the iCloud, everything carries over from phone to phone. It's somewhere in here, but I have a list of it's 100 jobs across the country. I didn't know anything about market size, so I didn't realize, hey, you can't apply to a New York City station fresh out of college. You're not going to get that job. But
these days you could.
It's a little different.
Time has drastically changed, even in the small time since you've been doing what you are so good at.
Oh, thank you. No, I think people can definitely start in top 50 now. I don't know if they should, because you're still getting paid for your experience. You're not getting paid for the market size. So let's say you make a certain amount of money in market 90 because you're straight out of college, you have no experience, that's where you're starting. They'll probably pay you the same in market 50 where it's a higher cost of living and it's
Right.
going to be hard to get by. But yeah, I think I applied to like 100 jobs and I had 5 offers and I went with Toledo and I'm happy I did.
Why did you make the choice to come here?
Okay, I think it was because of market size. At the time, Toledo was market 70. I think now it's 80. But
Whoa! Oh, I'm sorry, TV market, because radio market were much
very
smaller.
different.
Yes,
right?
yes.
Yeah. So TV market wise, obviously one is New York City. 212 is like somewhere random in Montana. I think I don't even know. But Toledo at the time was 70, and I figured let me start there.
Where were the other places? Do you remember?
Yes, somewhere in Northern California. I think it was like Redding, California, which is pretty much on the border. Erie, Pennsylvania, I think, somewhere in Montana, and then Yuma, Arizona, which would have been the safe move because I have family in Yuma, Arizona.
Look at that.
Tiny farm town on the border of Mexico. That would have been easy. I think they thought I would take that job, and when I turned it down, the station was really not happy because I actually got an interview from someone I knew in this tiny town. But something was calling me to Toledo, and I'm so happy I came here for so many reasons, but obviously I ended up back here.
And we'll get to that. What about living here? When you got here, did you go, I kind of like this place, not thinking that you were going to leave and come back, but what was not the oh wow moment, but like, I really kind of like it here moment?
I didn't like it.
Okay. I didn't know that.
I was probably for the first 6 months, I was miserable. I mean, and it probably didn't show because I loved my job. I loved the people I work with. I'm still friends with the people I worked with at 24. But when I would come home, it would just be me in my apartment in this town I've never been to before. It was really hard to make friends. And then COVID hit. Mm-hmm. And then how do you make friends when no one is out?
So more crying, right?
More crying. Yeah. It was just a rough time. But then I started meeting people. Like I would meet people out at stories. And I'd try to be friends with them. I was, and still am, really good friends with my coworker, Bree, who is now down in Miami. So she really took me under her wing, which was really nice. And then eventually I met my now fiance, who was just a friend at the time. And him and I became like really good friends, obviously. So that's when things started to open up, is when I started to really meet people. But that took like a solid 6 months.
Right.
Yeah.
Especially during COVID times.
Yeah, that was miserable.
When did you leave here?
I left here in August of 2021 and went to Vegas.
Do you want to share anything about your experience at 24? And I'm not asking you to slam anything, but anything that you feel people should know in one way or another, or maybe how the business works, or I'm sure people have asked you what happened to them. Why aren't they here anymore?
Yeah. So it's funny because working at 24, I knew we were like the little engine that could. Like we were a small team. We tried to keep up with the others in town, which was,
impossible. It's
impossible.
It's like my lift here against like 92.5 and K100.
It was impossible. But at the time, like you really felt like you were doing, and I think we did do good work, but in the moment going through it, you felt more ahead than you were, I think. When I came back and now I'm at WTOL, I heard that they would always say things like, oh, 24 finally got on this story. So that's when I really honestly realized like, oh, shoot, we were not doing as good as I thought we were doing. But yeah, super small station. Years before I got here, they actually outsourced their anchors. So the anchors were based in another state. But
Fort Wayne, right?
Fort Wayne, yeah.
I remember the guy and the girl, which it often is anchor teams, but I remember seeing them. They were on the air for quite some time.
Yeah, but other than that, all the photographers were here.
Who's the reporter? I'm sorry. Jim. Who's Jim?
Jim Nelson?
Yes.
He started at 24. I don't know if he started there, but he was there at one point.
Jim rocked. Jim was like their Sean Haggerty.
Yeah, he's great. I think he's in Seattle now. I don't know. I only know him like through Twitter.
But people knew the reporters more than they knew the anchors for a variety of reasons.
I don't think people even knew the reporters.
They knew Jim.
Oh yeah, but that was before my time.
Right, right.
Things went down. Were already probably downhill by the time I got there.
Yeah, I would say so.
Yeah.
When you got there, the anchors were out in Indiana?
Oh yeah.
Okay.
Oh, and had been for some time.
Yeah.
But everyone that needed to be here was here, and that's great. But yeah, in 2022, I think is when they shut down.
Yeah.
And something I love about WTOL 11 is that they picked up a lot of the people that got let go there, which is awesome. I love that they
Anybody that I
jumped
know?
in.
Because I didn't know that.
Mikey Fairchild is a photographer. I don't know if you ever met him. Andy Ballas.
I know Andy.
Yeah, him. I think that's it. I don't know where anyone else is, honestly.
I mean, it was a small staff and a small operation.
Yeah.
And I don't remember there being lots of discourse. And granted, it was times were still a little fraught in 2022. There were a lot of other things to think about and talk about. But if a tree falls in the forest, would be descriptive of them going off the air, simply because it was an erosion over time.
Yeah.
Oh, the anchors aren't here. Oh, I don't know who these people are anymore because there's so much transition. So when they went off the air, I think people intuitively knew that, like, oh, okay, they weren't doing well. Goodbye.
Well, it's so funny. You say it was very few people here. It was so small that during COVID we were still able to go to work because we were meeting the capacity limits even before COVID. That's how few people were in there. Obviously, we social distanced. We were all spread out, but no one really had to work from home.
Right. I came in, I was fortunate. I got to come in the whole time as well, mostly because somebody had to do the afternoon traffic reports.
Oh. It must have been clear, though.
I mean, we were getting back to things at some point. I forget. I mean, it's 5 years ago, but in some ways it feels like 10 or 15.
Yeah.
But yeah, I got to come in as well, and it was great because I got to sit in my studio alone. Like I got to be out of my home, so it didn't affect me like it did many people. And I like being alone. Like,
me too.
Go back in your houses. You're all a bunch of jerks. Go.
It's so funny because how I was saying I didn't know anyone here. I had no friends here. Being in isolation was just life for me at that time. I was like, oh, now everyone has to stay inside and not have any friends. Welcome to my world the past 6 months. So
I would have been your friend.
Thank you.
Thank you. I always tell the story, and I probably told it here on the podcast before, that when I met you at one of the George Floyd diversity rallies in Ottawa Hills, I went to introduce myself to you because we had engaged a bit on Twitter.
Yeah.
And I think, I forget what question brought me to it, but my jaw hit the grass when you said, oh, this is your first job, which I couldn't grasp because you were extremely detailed, precise, professional, refined, like you've been doing this for 15 years.
Thank you. I don't know. This is something I love to do. I put my heart and soul into it, and I'm glad it shows in my work.
You know, you've done this long enough now, been enough people. Some people just kind of have a gift for what they do, for their vocation. God, I can't think of anybody off the top of my head. You probably. Is there anybody that, like, we don't see so often that is maybe a reporter Stephen has the gift? Like, Stephen was born to be on TV.
Which one?
Jackson.
Oh, yeah. Oh, my gosh. He is the greatest guy. We share a desk at work because when his day's ending, mine's starting because he's mornings. He has become such a good friend.
He's a great guy.
So great.
I thought wherever I was, whether it was back on the old morning show or here, we used to have a TV. I'd always have the news on. Yeah. So I got familiar with a lot of people. Yeah. And when everyone was still on Twitter, I made a lot of friends that way, you included. And I would go, they're going to leave. They're not very good, but they try hard. And it's kind of like, the fantasy football of news people. And predictably enough, a lot of people left, but I'm glad I was wrong about Stephen, because Stephen from the outset, it's like, wow, Stephen, it's 5 o'clock in the morning. Can you tone that down just a little bit? But he is awesome. Yeah, he really is.
He's a great guy.
Why did you decide to leave?
It was one of those things where it's just your contract's up. Obviously, in this industry, you want to keep trying to move up markets. There's a point in everyone who's in this industry, they think the bigger the market, the happier, the easier it'll be. That's not always the case. Obviously, I came back. I went up a big market, then
Where'd you go? You went to Vegas, right?
Vegas, yeah. I just wasn't happy there. It wasn't for me.
Whatever you're comfortable sharing, you came from, as you've described, not the best situation, but you didn't know much better, although you figured it out that, there was 11 and 13, and then you guys were somewhere, in the negative range or whatever.
Yep.
That's a tough situation.
Yeah.
What was challenging about Vegas that made you not like it?
So I went from, like you said, a station in the negatives to the number one station in Vegas. And it was I don't think I was prepared for how fast paced it was. And I kept up. I kept my head above water. But the breaking news for me every single day, without any sort of relief or taking like the time for my mental health, that's what really caught up to me.
Right.
And that's what did it for me. I mean, it was back to back horrible stories. And we have bad stories here, but in Vegas, it's not I don't want to put this lightly, but in Vegas, it's not just like a shooting. It's like a kid burned alive in his mobile home. And that was the story that really did it for me. And there's a few others too, but like that's the one that really sticks out where I was like, whoa, I'm on like day 5 of heavy news coverage, haven't had a chance to think about it. No one at the station is really giving me the space to take time for my mental health. And it caught up to me and I couldn't do it anymore.
That's something I've never thought to ask my news friends, perhaps because they're all here as opposed to major markets, larger markets, the more bad things happen. That's unfortunately, the way it is. But yeah, I guess the best person to ask in our market would be like Alexis Means.
Yeah.
Like when Alexis posts something bad is happening.
Yeah.
And that's got to be really grueling on who you are as a person. Like you said, you needed to take time for yourself.
And at the time, I was the youngest person in the Vegas market. I was 24. And
do they just think that you went to the casinos and clubs every night and just rolled into work?
Yeah. People are like, oh, you didn't live on the Strip? And our reporting rarely even took us to the Strip. Vegas is huge.
It's all tourists and stuff, right?
And the people who live in Vegas want to hear about what's happening in their communities, and that's not the Strip. But I will say and I keep plugging WTOL. I just really love my station, and I'm so thankful everything's brought me back here. They do such a good job of checking in on you, making sure, hey, are you taking advantage of your benefits to help with your mental health? How are you doing? All of this stuff. So I think that's honestly really rare. Out of the 3 stations I've been at, this is the only one that's done that. And it's so nice to have management that cares about you.
I would say it's somewhat selfish, but I'll come back to that. It's just a little selfish. Not that it's not all completely genuine, but I'll come back to that. So what after you decided to step away from Vegas news, what did you do?
I left news completely, moved back to New York City. I worked at my alma mater in like marketing and communications. I was able to get my master's degree for free, which is not something I ever intended to do, was to get a master's degree, but it was free because I worked at the university. So I figured, why not? I think you should always further your education if you're able.
And if it's free.
If you're able, that's what I meant by like it being free. So I did that. I had an amazing team. I'm still in touch with them. I was on the phone with them this week. I loved my time there, but I think 2 things. 1, I needed to move back to New York City to know I never wanted to live there again. And 2, I needed to leave news to know that I wanted to come back.
Is it too fast in New York?
Not fast, just expensive.
Yeah.
Going to college there is one thing. Living there fully on your own as an adult is another. And I just, I like the suburbs. I like getting in my car, having my groceries in my car, driving home instead of having to walk carrying bags of groceries.
Right.
But I do miss walking everywhere. That was awesome. Biking a lot. I was definitely way more active there. But again, my brother will always live there. I can always visit. I don't need to move there.
When your parents come visit here, I'm sure they have at one point, they probably feel like they've exchanged currency for how inexpensive things are here compared to there, right?
They love it. They love coming to visit. And it's one of those places, and whenever I meet people and I tell them where I live, they kind of give me a look like Toledo, Ohio. But when you come here and you see how great it is, how amazing everyone is, you learn to love it. I mean, my friends, when I first moved here, my friends from college living in New York City at the time came and visited me, and they loved it. And I think it just takes people coming here and seeing it to realize it's amazing. Something
I'm working on with some other people, trying to connect some people. I think the mayor said it in his State of the City, whenever that was last month or so. At least I took it this way. Like, we've put stuff out there the metro parks, obviously the sports facilities downtown. We've built up downtown. The neighborhoods outside of it, outlying neighborhoods are feeling the halo effect.
Yeah.
And then, of course, Sylvania Mommy and things like that. And I think he said it's time to get people here.
Yeah.
And I'm trying to work on some things where we can get that message to others who aren't here.
Yeah.
I mean, we hear the stories. The cost of living is great.
Yeah.
We come across the Wallet Hub stories. It says Toledo is, X, Y, or Z for this.
Yeah.
Like we need to tell our story that you have embraced to others so that they come here and live here and can go, I think I could make this my home.
Yeah,
we have.
Yeah, I feel like I'm Toledo's number one, biggest fan, ambassador. I always tell people, Toledo's next. Toledo's on the map. This is where everyone should be looking right now to be ahead in 3 years, 5 years, when it's the place to be.
Why did you come back to WTOL? Why did you come back to Toledo and then there?
So I came back to Toledo for WTOL. Also, my fiance, again, he's from here. He wanted to get closer to home.
Did he hate New York City?
He didn't hate it, but he didn't love it. He said he's always wanted to live in New York, and I'm glad he got that experience. I don't know if it's what he thought it would be. He lived in Chicago for, I want to say 4 or 5 years, so he knows big cities, but he's more of a Midwest guy for sure. So yeah, we weren't going to move back to Toledo if I didn't get the job at TOL. We probably would have moved to Chicago, but this just worked out. He wanted to be close to his parents. I got the job, and yeah, we're so happy to be here.
How long have you been back here now at TOL?
It'll be a year in June.
Do you ever? Wow, it feels like a lot longer than that.
Yes, it does.
Do you ever look back at your old work at 24, and then see what you do now and see how you have grown, how you have gotten better coaching or evaluating yourself?
I actually think I've regressed, honestly. I feel like probably towards the end of my time in Toledo and my reporting in Vegas, I feel like I was most proud of my work. I don't know if it's just coming back and still trying to get into the swing of things, but I feel like I'm not doing as good of a job as I was before. But I mean, I don't think I'm doing awful, but sometimes I'll do a story and I'll look back and be like, why do I sound like that? I'm not talking fast enough. But again, that could just be me critiquing myself.
Perhaps. And I would say that you're a completely different person. Now, obviously, there's no pandemic. Yeah. And you talked about how isolated you were and you really only had work. Here, you have more of a life.
Yeah.
So if it's not the perfect segment, if it's not the perfect story, life goes on.
Yeah. Oh, I've never been happier. We have more people at WTOL than NBC 24 ever had. So I have so many friends at work. I love them all so much. It feels like, I just have a life. It feels really nice to be settled and just comfortable with where I'm at. I've never experienced this before, and it's just so nice.
In about 2 years away, roughly speaking, you return. When did you have that wasn't there before moment? In a good way. Like
for Toledo?
Yeah.
I mean, everything feels like it's gotten better and grown. I mean, we were talking about downtown. Everything, like the pickleball facility. I know they're opening another one sort of in the
Holland.
suburbs. Yeah. It just feels like there's more life in Toledo.
For sure.
And again, I don't know if that's because of the pandemic, but it just feels like there's more energy. They're going to expand Hensville in that area. That's going to be awesome.
Did you do that story today?
No.
Okay, because I saw it yesterday, and I think I read it today in the Blade.
Yeah.
And they keep saying North St. Clair. And when I think of North St. Clair, I think over by Levis Square. Does North St. Clair hit at Monroe and then lead to the Huntington Center?
I think it's the Glass City Center, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
That's
at the Glass City
That's
Center.
Monroe.
Yeah.
Because that's got to be North St. Clair right there. And I know they want to extend center field into that, in between, no center field fence.
Okay.
And are you familiar with Camden Yards in Baltimore?
No.
In the outfield, there's just an alley that leads out to the street, and there's a big warehouse. And and when the ballpark isn't open, it's a place where there's probably small shops, vendors, things like that.
Okay.
And I think they want to create something like that. I'm just trying to picture North St. Clair because I lived on South St. Clair, which is where like Home Slice is.
Okay, so that's okay. That was my concern. As long as they don't mess with the parking in front of Kango, I'm cool because I need that front row spot, running up to that door, putting my name down. Don't mess with that, please.
Have you been to Papa K's yet?
No, so we just got back from Florida on Monday, and I saw the post that they were open, and I said we got to go now, and my fiance said no, but maybe tonight we'll go. I don't know. I'm done. I've been waiting for this for so long. I thought they were going to open in January, and I know things happen and things take time. Whatever. I'm ready to go now. I'm so excited.
I've never had the ramen.
Oh, it's good.
I've heard, and I like Kango's food. I used to go downstairs when I lived there all the time. My friend ate not my roommate, my neighbor. She would eat everything they had, and I'd go have wine with her. And if they had like something teriyaki chicken street food or avocado, like I'd snag that. But none of the. No,
you're not a sushi person?
Nope, not one bit.
Have you been to Papakatos yet?
No.
Okay.
No. But so I went to Kango all the time, and when I'm downtown, I will still. I'll peek my head in, and then I'll cut through to go to the back, which I used to do a lot anyway, where my car was parked at. I've not been to the ramen spot, but I know it's really good.
It is.
It would be a lot easier for me if I still worked and lived downtown, because I know it's a bit of a race.
Yeah.
And I'm curious to see. They should probably just change it from South St. Clair to South St. Kango at this point.
Truly.
Because then that's 3 spots, and you've got Ahava, Home Slice,
Maddie and Bella.
So he's like one more spot away from taking over the entire block, outnumbering everybody, at least on that side of the street.
Yeah, I mean, I know you said you don't really, the sushi part of it, but as someone who grew up in Southern California, lived in New York, I'm a sushi snob. Nothing touches Kango. Yeah. That is the best sushi I've ever had. It's the best.
I say this, and I guess I'm a little biased because he was my friend and neighbor. Bite for bite, it's hard to compare like Rosie's or even like Moose's place, Souk, to other. You can't compare ethnicities of foods. No. But maybe, if there was some kind of challenge like bite for bite, Kango is probably the best, and maybe Musa, also an old neighbor of mine, is real close behind that.
Yeah, Souk is awesome too, but Kango's number one. I would say Souk is right there, and then there's a new Yemeni place that opened.
I've heard of that.
Amazing.
It's Middle Eastern Mediterranean food, right?
Yeah, from Yemeni, yeah.
How is that different from, let's say, Biblos?
Biblos, I would say, is more Mediterranean. Yemeni, this Yemeni spot, it's like more, like they don't have the grape leaves. They're not going to have like a fattoush salad, but their lamb and their chicken falls right off the bone. The rice is amazing. I mean, we have such good food here. And again, we're just like in the middle of the country, and you would never think, but I love almost every restaurant here.
So I think I know the answer to this for what you just said. I know a lot of people who have come here. One, a close friend of mine, he is not thrilled because he's lived in big cities. He's not thrilled with the food scene here. And I get that. Some of us are more snobbish about our food than others. So you don't miss East Coast and West Coast cuisine as much as other people that might come here, right?
I would say so, yeah. I mean, I don't know. I definitely think I'm a sushi snob. I don't know if I'm a food snob. There are some things I do miss. I feel like the coastal cities have a lot of healthy, fast, casual restaurants. Like, I don't know if you know Cava. It's like it's like Chipotle, but for Mediterranean food.
Got it. We have a place like that.
We do?
If it's still there, it's outside in the shopping center where Starbucks is. It's in the same strip where Starbucks is, where not Whole Foods, Fresh Market is.
Oh, okay.
It's on the very end on the right.
Okay, I can picture it. I don't know what it's called, but
Neither
can picture it.
But I had gone there once, and I was like, oh, it's like Chipotle, but for Mediterranean food, exactly that.
I know, yes, I know what you're talking about. But then there's like, I like to get like a quinoa bowl every now and then. There's not really that here. Right. But other than that, we have really good options. So your friend, I don't know.
I think we had a place like that was on Secor, where the Chick-fil-A is. It was probably here. It was probably open when you were here the first time. If you're on Secor and the Chick-fil-A is right here at the end of this shopping center, there was a place like that there where you could get all kinds of bowls, like healthier, more healthy than not. But it's probably long gone now.
That's it. We need something that sticks.
What besides that? What else would you like to see here, even beyond the realm of food?
Just more. I mean, more people. Honestly, more young people, which I think we're on our way to. We've got the pickleball down. I think that's huge. I don't know. I'm trying to think like what maybe New York has that we don't have. Maybe more walkability, honestly. That's hard though. That's very difficult to do at this point. That's something that needs to be like in the roots of a community. We've got the metro parks, which phenomenal. I honestly feel like Toledo has everything. We just need the people.
I don't want to be anybody's wet blanket on walkability and bikeability, but you have a different perspective. The city wasn't built that way.
Exactly.
And when I hear that there's going to be a bike path from whatever, the Art Museum to Old Orchard, well, that doesn't sound safe whatsoever. And like you're ripping up the infrastructure that's been here for decades. Yeah. That's why I try to split the baby and go, get on the damn bus. Because we do have very functional public transit. Yeah,
that's true. That's a good point. That's the thing is I would love walkability, bikeability, but it's just not in it. That again, that's something that would have had to been done when the city was planned.
Yeah.
So.
And our smaller communities will probably try to make that, but like Uptown Mommy, you want to bike 2 blocks? All right, there you go, and then you're over the bridge. Okay, so kind of like business stuff. I'm glad that your bosses and leadership at work ask you if you're doing well. I do believe that a chunk of it is genuine. I also believe I believe a portion of it is, please don't leave us, because you'd have to be new to the planet to know that media, legacy media, myself included, is kind of under siege, and we don't get paid a lot. It's a really tough job. It's tougher than ever. You probably have people who will come up to you, and there used to be the haggling of people being idiots. Now they probably just from time to time come to you and say, why don't you just tell the truth? And weird things like that. Not you, but generally speaking.
People probably do get that. Yeah. I mean, I feel like any industry right now is hard. No one's has it easy. I feel like we're kind of in a weird, difficult time.
The market is down 1,500 points today.
Yeah.
The global economy is tanked, so it's kind of that makes me think, like, who is doing well right now? People who make AI. Right. People who make AI are doing very well. Athletes. The Boston Celtics just sold for $6 billion.
Crazy. That's crazy.
But that's a good point, and you have such an optimistic perspective in a very challenging job. What do you find to be difficult on the hard days? Not the stories, but just resources available. Are people actually watching this? So on and so forth.
I think people have been saying, the news is dying even before I got into this industry. I'm going to ride it for as long as I can. But last week, for example, with the horrible news that, with Kimani Lateeg, which is just so horrible and tragic, people are turning to the news for answers. There's so much going on social media, rumors flying about what happened, but people were turning to us for the truth and the answers. And I think at the end of the day, people need to remember that's what we're here for. I mean, that we're going to give you the answers and dispel the rumors. And it's such a heavy, tragic case to have so much chatter on social media about. So, yeah, I think people tune in when they want the clarity, when they want the answers. And I think last week is just proof of that.
We obviously don't want tragedies regularly. That would get more people to tune in. Why should people maybe not tune in? Like I don't watch the news, but I consume it. Sorry. But I consume it through all other channels. Like I do have one thing that you can send back to Brian if you'd like. And it's a criticism of 13 as well, but it's not going to happen. There are other ways to consume news, like how I found you on social media. Why do you think people should tune in when tragedies aren't happening or there isn't a horrific night of weather like last night? Like, why should people just flip it on when on a boring Wednesday?
Because don't you want to know what's happening in your community? Don't you want to know about the growth of Toledo and the great things happening here? I mean,
I think a counter, somebody who says, well, the news is only, bad and bleak stuff. And they're right to a point. We can't do, all cat shows and donut eating contests.
Yeah.
I think people would like to know what's going on. I don't think enough know that they should be more wired into what's happening locally than at a national level. Because you can have, it might still be a small impact, but you can have an impact here as opposed to sending your post out about, Democrats, Republicans, Elon, this, whatever, that, where you can touch city council people here. You'll run into them in Maddie and Bella, and that's the good thing about our smallish, medium-sized community. I do think, though, that people don't have enough time for it, though. They're busy, I'm not even accounting for their TikTok addiction. I'm accounting for their life, their emails, their kids, their families, their friends, their mental health appointments, and all that. It's super hard. Has there been anything that you guys have been instructed about recently? Not like to TikTokify it, but we've called them in what I've come across like snackable things.
Yeah. So I think definitely if you're a news organization and you're not already meeting people where they're at, then you're done. Mm-hmm. We are very our TikTok has gained like 3,000 followers just in the past 2 weeks because we're consistent with it now. Mm-hmm. Not every story, but a lot of the stories we cover on air, we're pushing on TikTok now, and the numbers are insane. I worked in social media at the university I was at, and I've never seen growth like this. So I think people do want the news. It's just meeting them where they're at.
Right.
And that's what you have to do. We're adjusting and adapting, and people are still tuning into the 6 o'clock news. I mean, even if it's just background when they're making dinner or
it's always
whatever.
been that way.
Yeah. But now to really get people, you just have to meet them where they're at. People aren't going to go looking for you. You need to go find them.
I wish both of you, 11 and 13, I wish the articles were a bit more comprehensive because I'm a reader.
Okay.
I like to read things because I can do it at my speed as opposed to a video, which that makes it a little bit more challenging.
Interesting.
Which is why, personally speaking, if I see a story on one of you guys, I hope that like the Blade the next day will have a more comprehensive piece on it, and not. Usually the comprehension I'm looking for is often like a story that you'll do on TV or Sean will do on TV. But my preference, I'd like reading stuff.
That's interesting. I feel like a lot of people are the opposite.
1,000%.
Those short videos.
1,000%.
Yeah.
I had to be better. I had to be present with my TikTok. Like as much as like 2 years ago, it was like one when I felt like it. Now I try to do like one a week, and I found my niche, like you talked about, it's got to be consistent. So I try to do my one a week, and it's what I'm comfortable with. Yeah. There's no dancing. I am not flashing my abs or boobs. It's me talking about things. I know you listen to the show. Yeah. It's a lot of stuff that I'll do on the show. Which if I'm talking over a song, I only have 20 seconds anyway. Right. I'll take that and put it on TikTok, and it's just me sitting here in the studio.
Yeah, but people like that. People like that.
I'm surprised some of the traffic on some of my things. I'd like it to be more. And I think a lot of the views are fake, like all social media things. Oh, yeah, because they want, we're the content.
Yeah.
If you're not paying for it, we're the content. So if you think you're going to get more views, a little bit more engagement, and, all that stuff. There's a lot of junk with the things that, unfortunately, we have to deal with. I don't know about you, but whenever my railroad tracks of this line of work runs out, if I don't have to put me out there, all the accounts with the exception of maybe like Twitter and Instagram, if Twitter could go back to the way that was, more people there, like no Facebook, none of the other stuff. I want to quiet my world.
I don't post too much on Instagram compared to other people. Facebook has a lot of reach for like news and like our demographic. So I'm pretty consistent on Facebook when it comes to professional stuff, but when it comes to like me, like my personal stuff. Instagram, I try to like just be quiet as much as possible also, but I try to post a lot for work, but it takes a lot of time.
Yeah. I found something incredibly, to nerd out here for just a second, I found something incredibly helpful last week. It's called, and you guys might have something like this to help you. It's called Fedica, Fedica. So we have something through work called Amplify, and it's like publishing for us here at work for our socials. And at least with this station, it's mostly just the Facebook page. But I have dearly missed what Twitter was. I was always good at curating who I interacted with and what I retweeted, so I didn't see a lot of the junk. And obviously, I'm not the kind of person who would get any kind of harassment. So my feed was pretty good until people started to flee within the last couple of years. Instagram started Threads, and then
Blue Sky.
Whatever. So this Fedica thing, I've weaved those three platforms into one, and I can post all at one time, and I love it.
Oh, that's nice. So it hits all platforms, like you just one
those
post
three.
And it goes through.
Yep,
okay.
I'll show you before you leave.
Cool.
And it's free. There's upgrade programs, but I can schedule stuff like I used to be able to do in TweetDeck. And
TweetDeck. That's
It's gotten to the point now where I'm questioning some of the metrics because it might have been a picture or a meme, and I don't usually put those on Twitter. Usually Twitter stuff, it's quote tweets or things I'm writing out. But Threads will pull stuff from like Instagram and Facebook, and something of mine got like 57 likes.
Nice.
I don't know if I've ever sent out a tweet that has ever gotten 57 likes because my stuff is so esoteric on there. And I'm like, how much of this is bullshit? And I look at some of the likes, and there's blank profiles, and I'm like, that person looks like they just got out of jail. So I'm cynical enough as it is, and I look at some of those things, and it's how they get us. If you think you're going to get interaction or that dopamine pop, you're going to keep posting stuff.
That's a good point. That's true. And I think, TikTok is very much like that. They'll give you like 1,000 views, and then you're back down to 200.
Yeah, then you got to do something. You got to do something
like,
right.
Oh my gosh, everyone hates me now all of a sudden. But
I have come to find, like, I know which of mine is going to do well, and I relate it back to what one of my mentors told me when I first started on the radio. He's like, your audience can tell, how you are. Like, if you have a bad day, even if you can get on the air and fake it, like, they intuitively know. I know which of my posts wherever are going to do crappy because I'm forcing it in a way, or a post earlier didn't do well. When I am anything less than my completely authentic self, those posts don't do as well. But like, we got to keep consistency, blah blah blah. Make sure people see it.
And authenticity is huge. I mean, people always say, like, even on air when the anchors are interacting with the meteorologists or like doing fun little chatty stories at the end of a show, people like that because you're yourself and you're not just reading a script and whatever. People like that. They see that. They like to feel like they know you. Do
you know what Columbusing is?
No.
I guess like millennials made that up, so a little older than you. Columbusing. So the story of Columbus, we all know it. Yeah. He came from was sailing for Italy or whatever, and he discovered America when there was actually already people here. Yeah. To me, TikTok is Gen Z and younger Gen Alpha Columbusing everything.
Yeah.
There are times I will find, like, and I'm not on there a lot, but I'll read about them. I'm like, wait a second, we've been doing this for a long time. Like, I feel like plenty of people who might have millions of followers on TikTok believe they discovered authenticity is the key to success. Like, that's what I've been doing since I got to turn on the microphone. Like, you didn't discover this.
I feel like a lot of the people with the millions of followers as well, they lose that relatability and it's not authentic anymore. I would much rather follow like a small creator. If there were more people like to follow here in Toledo, I would love to follow like a local content creator. And there is one girl, I don't know
Shayna?
her name. She's like a food TikToker.
Black girl glasses?
No, I don't know. I honestly don't know. But she moved here from somewhere else, from a bigger city, and she's trying like all the local restaurants for the first time, and I love that. I'm not usually someone that comments on TikTok because I don't like putting my name out there like that with comments, but I'll always, in her comments, I'm like, try this place. And I'm such a fan. And I want more of that here.
And I would bet that's great for, you'll have to let me know who she is, because somebody like that spreads our message beyond the silo here of Toledo. Like I spend a lot of time on the Toledo subreddit page because it helps me find things to talk about.
Me too. I find stories all the time on Reddit.
But so my aggravation of like, oh boy, here we go. Here's the weekly. Where's the best pizza post?
Yeah, I see your name all the time on Reddit.
I like when I give somebody a link for the question that's people. That's off topic. But we stay in those silos. Like when somebody asks the same question, and there's a variety of them on Reddit that get asked repeatedly, the same people give the same answers.
Yeah.
So it's nice to have somebody like that who reaches beyond our silo that can actually maybe bring people here someday.
Yeah.
They try the food, they spend a weekend here, and they're like, you know what? I've read that cost of living story. Maybe I should check this out.
And I think maybe I need to start doing like Toledo content, but I'm just... It takes a lot.
You have a wedding to plan.
That's the thing. That's a full-time job. But, I go out, my fiance and I go out to eat all the time. I can easily just take my phone out and be like, this is the best pizza in Northwest Ohio. And, I think it's people hear Toledo and best food in the same sentence. I think that draws them in because they're like, no way. Toledo doesn't have the best anything. But they're wrong. So I feel like it's a good opportunity. Maybe I need to jump into this.
Food, kids, and pets are the key to internet glory.
Yeah,
and they always have been.
I don't think people should post their kids online, but that's a different thing.
I mean, you and I can tell because of mostly what we do, but I think other people can go, oh, this person is clearly using this thing as a vessel for popularity, and it's pretty despicable.
There's also like my master's degrees in marketing. I took a lot of marketing classes. I learned a lot about marketing when you post your kid online, that's it. They have a public profile about them made. All these platforms are storing data on your child now, and that's weird to me. So I'm like, people can do what they want, but I'm like, keep your kid's face off social media. Like they're being tracked. It's a whole thing.
What? Give me a marketing tip that you learned with your master's that I don't know or I need to be better at.
Oh gosh.
And it doesn't have to be me specific, but something that like you didn't know, even though what you did was marketing as your job. Because we're all selling or marketing something, especially these days. What's something like behind the curtain that you learned that you found really helpful?
Honestly, I don't know if there's anything that's not known, because I feel like with TikTok, a lot of people are making videos like, here's how to grow your followers in X amount of days. It really is just consistency. Yeah. Like it's posting not just once a week, 3 times a day. Yeah. That's how you're going to grow. There's a lot about the algorithms too, and like the way these platforms screen content and decide what to push out. I think that's really interesting. But consistency, truly, like that's the biggest not so secret.
My a friend of mine. Do you know my friend Valerie? She's the city's disability manager.
I do not.
Short lady. She had sometimes we would. And this was a couple of years ago now. She would say, "You're always up so late. Like her and I will talk at like 11 o'clock at night or something."
Oh my gosh,
and then she sees my post at like 6:15 in the morning. And she's like, "It's like clockwork." I'm like, "I know. It's kind of the point. Like one of the first things I do. I mean." You probably do this for either work, mostly for work. Like I'll put thoughts aside, and if I have a thought that I think will do well or a post, I'm not posting it right then and there. In most cases, it will be saved for first thing in the morning because we know people are on their phones first thing in the morning, and it is the absolute best time to post.
Yeah, there's posting times even before people go to bed. They're scrolling and looking.
I post my real wild shit at night sometimes.
Do you think people aren't going to see it?
No, I know. It's kind of like the after dark posts.
Okay.
in those ways. Not that I ever hold back anything, but I'm like, this one's probably, like I posted my Opal thing when I'd gotten back from a movie, I think, and found out that she passed. Yeah. And I said something, and somebody made a bit of a cringy emoji, and I kind of felt that it, when in doubt, leave it out. Mm-hmm. I'm like, I might have not put what I said in the morning when there's more of an audience. Like at night, I'm kind of testing things.
That's fair.
So I wonder if I have a master's in marketing from.
You don't need one.
I know.
It was free. That's why I did it. And I'm proud of myself. It was really hard. To be honest, I thought getting your master's is easier than undergrad. I thought, oh, this is something like working people do, and it's easy. But it was so difficult, and that's my own fault. But I did it. I got through it. I think I'm winning an award for it. Good. So that's nice.
What does it afford you? Does it only help you when and if you step away from news where you can now go teach it?
I don't know, actually, because my contract, I guess I'll find out when my contract's up and I'm trying to renew. I'll pull hey, I have my master's and see if they give me more money. Because I got my degree after I was already here. So
that's a super complicated thing. They'll just go back to the metrics, right?
Maybe. I don't know. I'm going to try.
A master's is not a metric, unfortunately. Like we can't sell that. I'm sorry.
I know. But look, in a marketing job, yeah, I think it could get me
a few
more pretty pennies, but I don't know about news. But I love what I'm doing, so I'm not doing it for the money.
I think Kengo is your favorite restaurant. What's a restaurant that you feel is overlooked by us here? And I understand if you don't want to share it out there so it gets popular. I used to be that way about Mutts all the time before it changed.
No, there's definitely, I can't say Village Idiot because everyone knows that's great. Perry's Burgers.
Okay.
Perry's Burgers has great burgers. I feel like I've rediscovered it after moving back here. And I think I've been twice in like the past 3 weeks. Really good burgers. I've had Perry's Burgers.
Going out a lot. So I've cut back on it. I used to do it a lot. And for me, COVID changed things. I stick with what I know and like because it's consistent. I have found going to different places, I'm okay paying a lot for something, but I need the quality to be there.
Of course.
And a lot of places, I divorced a pizza place I'd ordered from years because the crust and bread became basically like white bread.
Oh.
And I get it. There's a lot of challenges out there with costs and goods and services and bodies and everything. Do you feel that the places you go to have remained consistent and are still the quality that you want and deserve?
I think the local places I go to, yes. I will be honest, there's some local places I go to and I just don't like them. I'll never go back.
Right.
But I find those gold mines and I'll keep going back. And I personally feel okay paying a little bit more for a local spot. I love supporting our local businesses because they do a really good job, and it's not easy.
Yeah. I've always avoided chains almost at all costs unless it was just like something super fast. And I will never go into a drive-through line.
Really?
Of a place that I'm not familiar with.
Okay. I love a drive-through.
Or with multiple vehicles. Or my worst nightmare is getting into the drive-through and there's a small curb or barrier that keeps you in the drive-through line when you're like, it's been 10 minutes already.
Yeah, and you can't escape.
You're stuck.
Yeah. I mean, again, I support local when I can. There's some mornings though where Maddie and Bella isn't open.
Right.
When I need to get like a little pick me up on my way to work, so I'll do the Dunkin' drive-thru. I just discovered Dunkin'. I don't know where it's been my whole life.
In New York and Boston, but there's not many of them out west.
No, Starbucks is definitely the big thing.
That makes sense.
But even when I was living in New York, I was a Starbucks girly. But no, as of like 2 weeks ago, a Dunkin' has just, wow. And it's more affordable.
Yeah. I've always been a Dunkin' person. They were big when I was growing up, and I wasn't even a coffee drinker then. I would get the cool lattes and all the fancy drinks.
Yeah.
But I fell in love with them because I've always bought my coffee out because whenever I've tried to brew it at home, even with a Keurig, it's just not robust enough.
Okay.
It's too watery. So I've always bought out. I did the Panera subscription for a long time because I in 8 days it would be worth it or whatever it was. But to me, I've always loved Dunkin' because the consistency, it's not too potent like Starbucks. It's not too weak like Panera or a Tim Hortons. It's the Goldilocks zone. I've heard
bad things about Starbucks' coffee. Everyone says it tastes burnt.
Yeah.
I don't drink black coffee. I drink like the sweet, like the brown sugar shaken espresso. I'm not really drinking coffee for the pick-me-up. I'm drinking it because it's like a dessert in the morning.
Yeah. I drink it for the unwillingness of mine to do other like hard drugs like cocaine or anything.
That's a good alternative.
And I actually stopped drinking it because of a stomach thing last year, and I pulled it out. But I've gone back to it now. It's more of like a treat. But I drink. I'm like my mom in a couple of ways. Her supermarket prowess, and also before she was even awake, it was coffee and a cigarette. Except I'm not doing the cigarette.
That's good.
And it was black coffee. Like when I knew that coffee was caffeinated. And you go to a place, I'm like, black is fine, and I've always drank it that way.
Wow, good for you. Yeah, I can't. I need sugar. I actually try to cut out sugar as much as possible, but I will leave room for my brown sugar shaken espresso.
Where are you with drinking alcohol?
So I feel like, having gone to school in New York City, I partied a lot. And then when I turned 21, I kind of stopped drinking. Maybe I shouldn't admit to underage drinking on this, but I mean, we all do it in college.
Right.
I'll maybe I have one drink a month, maybe, and that's only because I'm going to so many weddings with where I'm at my age. If there's an open bar, I'll have a drink. But I was just at a wedding this past weekend. I think I had half of a drink. So
you've never been much of a drinker?
Early on.
You were just a college drinker.
Yeah, but you know.
Are you like 25?
I'm 28.
28. Sorry.
Thank you so much.
You're heading into your prime drinking years. Don't worry. I was the same way. When I was in my 20s, like I just had no taste for alcohol. It's different now though, but it's been fascinating to watch, mostly power through TikTok, the mocktail culture.
Yes, I love a mocktail.
Some girl went hard after me on Threads. And it was just like loss of nuance on maybe both of her parts, because I think that there are plenty of people who will drink mocktails and not understand, like, there's no alcohol in there,
right?
But there's also like 700 calories and 88 grams of sugar. Yeah. So while it's not intoxicating and alcohol is poison,
it's definitely not good for you.
Right. You're not drinking water and electrolytes in that thing.
That's true. It's just, I think sometimes it's just nice to have something, because there's been situations even at my age where I'll say I'm not drinking or I don't want to drink, and people will kind of feel a certain way about it or say something. So sometimes it's nice just to hold something so people don't bother you. I just can't believe at this age people are questioning, why aren't you drinking? Right. And it's like, I just don't want to.
It's a social and societal thing. And I've seen some discussion about this around the mocktail culture. And people have surmised that this is a new thing with heavy drinking. And someone who was like an alcohol expert pointed out, like, humanity has been drinking forever, and it's never going to go away.
Yeah, I do think, and a lot of people disagree with me on this, and that's okay. I think we will get to a point in time where alcohol is looked at like cigarettes.
I disagree.
Everyone disagrees. That's okay. Maybe I'm just being hopeful, but I mean, it really... And again, I have a drink every now and then. I go to all these weddings. There's open bars. It's great, but there's no benefit. It's so bad for you. Alcohol is so bad for you.
Didn't the Surgeon General say that there should be some kind of warning on it recently or something?
Yes. Yeah.
I'll meet you in the middle. In Star Trek, which is 400 years in the future, they have this thing called synthahol.
Okay.
I think, to meet you in the middle, I think we will extract the really bad things out of alcohol. We'll get to that point. I don't know necessarily what that might be. Someone will find a way to replicate the inebriation and the feeling without the real bad health effects. Yeah. I drink three things. I want to be caffeinated, inebriated, or hydrated. I drink black coffee, water, or alcohol. Okay. I don't mess with sports drinks.
Yeah.
Everything has a function. It's all utility. Yeah. I want to be hydrated, or I want to satiate my hunger with the water. I want to wake up and not murder people with caffeine. Yeah. And I want to have good whiskey and a little bit of a buzz.
Yeah, I think that's, quality alcohol is one thing.
Unintentional, as somebody would say.
And I also think when you're enjoying a glass of whiskey, you're not doing it to get messed up. Oh. Or maybe you are. Right. I don't know. I don't know anything about whiskey, but I just know people sip it slowly with a giant ice cube in it. But there's no health benefits. Doesn't make you feel good the next day. But it is fun. Again, I get it. I don't rule it out completely, but I just wish more people cared about. Like, it causes so many cancers and stuff.
I think that girl that I was tussling with actually said, or somebody in that thread said, that they believe it's going to be like cigarettes.
Maybe it was me.
And like a societal, yes, in your burner account, societally taboo. And I don't think we'll get there because it's so ingrained in human culture.
Yeah.
But I do think we will solve hangovers and some of the other things.
But the hangover isn't, that's just a symptom of what you're like. That's not going to cure the unhealthiness that the alcohol, But it's, I think it's not. I guess I think about fraternities and stuff like in the South. Like, think about hazing and all that drinking. You're right. It's probably not going to be looked at like cigarettes, but I could be hopeful.
Right. Share as much as you'd like, and I won't keep you much longer. How is wedding planning going? Is it more challenging than you expected?
It's a full-time job. I've had people tell me it's so much work, but I kind of thought, oh, what's wrong with you? How could it be that hard? And it really is a full-time job. We have our venue, we've got our date, whatever, but now it's like the photographer, the florist, and do we want a DJ or a band? And you have to interview all these people, and it takes like an hour per interview, and you're trying to get as many quotes as possible, and there's only so much so much time in the day, but I'm trying to get everything over with. We have we have a long engagement, so we have a lot of time, but I'm trying to get as much done as possible to just relax at the end. We've only been engaged for like 6 months, so not that long, but already it's been like, we have to do so much. So
are you doing it here?
No, Southern California.
How does his family feel? They're probably okay going out to California, right?
Yeah, and that decision was made because we will be having a big wedding because I have a huge family and all of them are on the West Coast. It's easier to get, 15 to 20% of our guest list from Ohio to California than it is to get 80% of our guest list to the Midwest. But we did consider Michigan, Northern Michigan is very special to us, but there's just no venues that have the capacity for 300 people.
What is your ethnic background?
I'm half Italian, half Indian. So we will have an American ceremony the night before, we'll do it's called a Mendi. It's like the henna night for the Indian culture. So that'll be our welcome party. But I've always wanted to walk down the aisle in a white dress. And if we went the traditional Indian route, I wouldn't get to do that. So we'll honor that culture the night before.
Well, good luck with everying.
Thank you.
It'll work out.
I hope.
The wedding planning might be a huge hassle, but the wedding itself and everything after will be fine.
Yeah, I think so.
You want to wrap up with anything? Did we cover everything?
Yeah, I think that's good.
Well, thanks for coming. It's always good to chat with you.
Thanks for having me.